Hello everybody, my name is Arglin, and I've returned with another video now. Polybridge 2 has undergone a couple of updates, and if I've timed the release of this video correctly, today is the release of a new world. More specifically, the secret world now has a challenge mode. Now, obviously, it hasn't been released yet at the time of me recording, so I'm using a dev build at the moment. Now, the last time I made a video on the secret world, I said I wasn't going to use one of my own levels. Well, this time, I am going to. Or at least the challenge version of one of my levels. The challenge version wasn't actually made by me, it was a modification of my original one that was... You got the point. The level we're going to over-engineer today is 6-5 challenge mode. Now, if you don't know what the original one was, it looks like this. Chopper goes across, boats and planes go through, chopper goes back. For the challenge version, more planes and more boats were added to stop any somewhat easy cheese, and the chopper has to go up as well instead of just going straight across. Oh, and as a side note, I'm currently recording this at 3 in the morning on the day of the release with a friend, so I'm really rushing this video out to squeeze for the deadline. I promise I have a proper video that will come eventually as I'm nearly finished with it.
Quoting, I'm like, you know what? Indomie isn't that good.
Oh god.
Just out of the blue. People are going to kill me as soon as I'm defaming Indomie.
I mean, I will just say right now that I am indeed recording.
Right now?
Yeah.
You know what? Mac and cheese isn't that good.
By the way, that friend is also the person who drew the current profile picture of this channel, so shouts to him. Anyways, enough rambling. Here's a quick solve for reference before we go into over-engineering. So, what's the agenda? Well, for today's over-engineering, I'll allow unlimited budget as per usual. I don't want to use hydraulics. And lastly, I'm also not going to use any more roads than what is already provided. Cool, let's get cracking. Now, I actually didn't have any idea for this level when I first opened it up, though I figured I was going to build something somewhat big that would need to be supported above the boats and planes to avoid the space restrictions. So that's what I'm doing here, with the cables wrapping around the land masses to create 2 new anchors above the map. Alright, now I have to figure out how I should get the chopper from here up to here. I was already trying to brainstorm ideas, though a lot of them wouldn't work, mostly for one reason. When you have no hydraulics, the biggest thing that will help buy you time is to stop the vehicle just before they reach a checkpoint. This is easy for most vehicles, for example the Limo, as they have a very low center of mass, and it can easily be stopped by just either bottoming them out or stopping them against the wall. However, the worst vehicle for this, in my opinion, is the chopper. With the front being a wheel instead of the chassis, it can simply drive over the wall or flip on its back, which is often really frustrating to deal with. It's also really hard to bottom out due to its shape. The buggy and monster truck also have similar problems, but the chopper has one more problem. And it's that, unlike the buggy and monster truck, which can easily be encased without much problem, the chopper is a lot more problematic, especially when it encounters a reverse checkpoint. When hitting a reverse checkpoint, its hitbox can phase into objects. This is helpful for when you want to create cheap glitch solutions for levels. But it's extremely frustrating when trying to keep it in place. So just about any idea of a cage system that brings the chopper to the checkpoint is out of the question. I eventually came up with the idea to first use an elevator to at least get the necessary height. This can be achieved by using a very big Scott-Russell linkage. A Scott-Russell linkage is a linkage which can amplify straight line motion off of another existing straight line motion, which you can see on screen now. I made these animations up for Wikipedia, by the way, so if you're wondering what I've been up to for this past while, this is what I've been up to. And for the mechanism that is drawing the smaller straight line motion, I'm using a Bosselier-Lipkin linkage. Now, the premise was simple, though the execution was quite less so. I had to really fiddle around with the weights to get it actually lift, though even if I got it right, how can the chopper disembark remotely? Well, I managed to come up with a somewhat clever solution. The idea I had was to have the chopper be wedged between two roads in the carriage. Then, from above, I would suspend the roads like this, with a mechanism attached to the bottom of the carriage. When lifting, the mechanism above is in a locked state. But once you pull on this part of the lever, the mechanism unlocks, which drops the floor of the carriage a bit and lets the chopper exit. So here I now got that built up and working. As I said before, I can't really bring the chopper in a cage to the checkpoint, so I just went for a bridge suspended over the boats. Now, it turns out that that chopper happens to just about have enough horsepower to still drive with just the back wheel. And with that, I got the chopper to the checkpoint. And here I'm just checking to see if everything is clear with the boats and planes. And and it does. So now comes the problem of figuring out how to go back. The boats and planes have now passed through, so I can't build anything there. I also can't build above to scoop up the chopper as it's obstructed by more planes, and I also only have 2 roads left available. So that left me with 2 spots, the right side and the entire section underneath. And it turns out that I was going to need both. As the elevator was blocking the way down, I couldn't reuse the original bridge, and I was going to have to carry the chopper back from below. Now, in the original 6-5, there used to be a gap between the cruise ship and the land, but in the 6-5 challenge, there are speedboats which fill in that gap, and this was to prevent an old cheese where you could fit a whole bridge through that gap. However, this didn't stop me from being able to create a structure that joins the right side from the bottom. I could just have steel embedded into the ground with a bit of clever supports to avoid the boat. With this, I could attach a basket near the section at the bottom of the checkpoint for the chopper to fall into. Now, I could just use another grasshopper like I did in the very first ferry bridge video, but that isn't as fun, and is also a bit inconvenient with the space we have available. So, it's time to pull out my trusty Planar linkage repository. This thing is over a year old with about 150 pages of just linkages, and it's been doing me wonders. I went sifting through the pages and I found a linkage that is both fairly easy to build, but might also be interesting to look at. It's based off of a mechanism made by Alfred Bray Kemp, which reverses rotation. Here, it's just adapted to create exact straight line motion. So, yeah, that's what I went with here. Now, while I'm still building this, there's 2 more mechanisms that I wanted to address. The first is that there are multiple hydraulic phases in this level, but no hydraulic controller. So to prevent the carriage from moving prematurely, I simply placed some split joints to snag the carriage before it can continue moving on the first 2 phases before the chopper can board. The other thing is that once the ferry arrives to the left side, I need to release the chopper, and I quickly came up with a similar idea of a trigger mechanism as what was used in the elevator. When this part of the mechanism is pushed, it then tugs on the top of the carriage and just makes it dump the chopper in the end. So that's everything you really need to know. Usually for mechanisms this complex, I would use the colored materials mod to highlight what I'm making, but unfortunately, as this is a dev build, mods are a little bit broken from the minor updates. Not that it really matters though in the end, as all of my mods are actually really outdated. I'm using version 1.29 still for all of my mods, which is many updates ago now, and I really don't have the time to try to update all of my mods for this. Anyways, I'll leave you guys here with a time lapse in the final result. This has been Arglin, your local poly engineer, and have a wonderful day. Much love, and I'll see you in the next video.